Hi there, and welcome to this video where we're going to be looking at your ICP and your PTG, and you're probably thinking, oh my god, Pete, what on earth are they? But before I tell you exactly what they are, I want to make one thing absolutely clear to you. This is probably the most valuable piece of work that you can do for every single phase. The knock-on effect of this piece of work will impact every single thing that you do from now on in. How you approach people, who you approach, what you say, what your conversation thread is, how you create your first meetings, how you script things out, even what you put in your proposals. So do not, under any circumstances, scrimp and save on time that you invest in this section. A couple of things I just want to say from a personal point of view. You may hear me drink a coffee while I'm doing this. I don't usually do this, but I'm hoping that you know me well enough now to forgive me. But this is the second time that I created this. I created what was the longest video of the entire training, and then went to finish it, and somehow my recording software died. So it's the second time I've done this, but that's great because I've worked out all the kinks of what I was saying last time, so now I've just got a refined message for you. But if you do hear me drinking my coffee, excuse me for that. So what is ICP? So ICP is your ideal client profile. So who is the ideal client that you want to work for? A couple of things. I'm not going to fall into the stuff that most usual training courses will do by now, and just start getting you to think about, okay, so what's your industry? What's their turnover? How many staff do they have? What's the industry sector and specifics? That's not going to make or break your prospecting, your ability to win clients. That's just list building stuff. But no one's really teaching the stuff that I'm about to show you. And it is the key stuff that's going to make the difference for you. So how it's structured is, I'm going to give you this workbook here in Word format, obviously. And either do it in this Word document or do it, print it out and write on it. But do this. I'm going to stop the video at points, I'm going to leave the video. I'm going to say pause it. Do that and make sure you do the work. You've got two choices. You can either watch it all the way through on first pass and come back, or just stop it when I say on first pass and do the work. I would say you're probably going to need to make sure you've got about an hour and a half to do this, combination of watching the video and doing the work. And if I catch you asking questions in the Facebook group that indicates to me you haven't done this work, then I'm going to be asking some serious questions. If you indicate that you've done the work and there are gaps, then that is brilliant, because very few people do this work. So do not fear that the answers aren't polished, or the stuff that you're going to get to isn't polished, because that's cool, that's all right. Because remember the circle of excellence. I expect you not to know a lot of this, because very few consultants I've ever spoken to do. When I approach a new marketplace, I know very little of this. But I want you to identify that. I want you to own that and take ownership of that. So then you'll see why we're going out to the marketplace and having a more market-focused approach and actually speaking to people so they can fill in the gaps that we have. So let's work out what we know and what some of the gaps are. So first thing first, without any kind of hints or anything else, I just want you to spend some time here. So set your clock for 5 minutes if you've got a watch or stopwatch, or what's your target audience? What do you know about your target audience? So everything of someone that would make a great client for you. Get to writing now. Pause the video now. Okay, welcome back. So how do you get on with that? Perfectly simple thing to do, right? You know who you're targeting. So the next one. So what big problems does my target market have? So what here, I don't necessarily want you thinking purely around the problems that you solve, just in general, what are the problems that are pressing to your target market? Is it not enough sales, not being able to recruit A-grade players, not being able to bring products to market quick enough, not being able to restructure manufacturing? I really don't know, but you should. So what are the biggest problems facing your target market at the moment, either at a company level and or at an individual level? So spend a couple of minutes doing that. Pause the video now. Okay, welcome back. How'd you get on with that? Relatively easy, yeah? Business. So think about the key things you identified in the previous section and see if you can rank them on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being not important, 10 being important. What you know of your target market, what are the problems that are more pressing for them? What's taking their attention? What's getting their eyeballs? What's getting their budget? What's getting their senior management decisions in terms of what they're investing in? So think about the problems that you identified in the last one. Can you rank them in order of importance? And so I don't mean rank them, so that's right. Don't you spending hours going, oh, well, I think that's number 2 and I think that's number 4. But, on a rough scale of 1 to 10, 10 being very important, how important are they to solving those problems to the business? Because, there's a lot of problems in a lot of businesses that, they're a pain, but it's just really not important to solve them. So I want you to understand that. Okay, pause the video and crack on with that. Okay, welcome back. So last one you looked at what are the important problems to the business. Now, what I want you to do is, of the problems that are facing the business are you solving? So which of the problems facing the business are you solving? Should be relatively easy. Okay, pause the video and crack on with that. Okay, welcome back. Find that nice and easy? Hopefully so. Now, if you can't, then, don't worry. It's just an opportunity to fill in a gap because our messaging structure, our sales processes, a lot of it is going to be focused around problems and a concept I'm going to show you in a minute for the underlying pain behind there. Yes, I have been critical of focusing on problems, even myself before, because businesses have goals, and it's better sometimes to talk about the vision of where they want to be. However, the reality is if they have a vision of where they want to be, there's a problem that they don't know how to get there. So ultimately, and people are more likely to take action to solve a problem than they are to drive themselves towards a goal. But we will use language intertwined. But most things have a deep-seated root in a business problem. As a consultant, that's what you should be. You should be a business problem solver and a business results creator. So which of those problems are you solving? You've done that one. Okay, so what I want you to do now for a couple of minutes is think about if you pulled out a couple of problems above there that you could solve, is there one prevalent problem, one I got a big ass problem that you can or you are going to focus on? If so, write it there. And then what I also want you to do is, look, let's have a sanity check here. Is it important to your prospect? Might be important to you, but is it important to your prospect? Did it come highly ranked in the ranking that you did earlier? Is it a 6 or a 7 or an 8 or a 9 or a 10? Ideally, it's got to be up there in the 8, 9s and 10s. So have a sanity check. Is it really important to solve this problem for your prospect? Otherwise, it's going to be a hard slog selling your consulting services if you're solving a problem that's not important to your prospect. And as a result of that, can you prove that you can solve that problem? And if you do, will it enable you to command a significant consulting fee? Is it the type of problem that it might be important, but it's important, but it only brings a small financial results. Therefore, they might be looking at paying you a couple of days worth of day rate, or does it have such a big, significant financial and structural result for that business that it will command a significant consulting fee? So pause the video and get back into that one. Okay, welcome back. How'd you get on? Interesting concepts, eh? Are you aligning yourself with problems that have high value results? Okay, so next one. So what does solving that problem really do for them in their business? So what's the underlying pain of that problem? So at the moment, you may have done this already, but I doubt it. You'd be surprising me if you have, but I doubt it. So let me try and illustrate with a few clumsy examples based on some of my clients. So one of my clients does employee engagement and employee satisfaction questionnaires, but the reality is that's his method. That's his mechanism to what he does. So the problem that we identify that A-grade staff were leaving the businesses, or it could be his target businesses. One of the messages that he could take to the market is your best staff are leaving. That's the problem. But really, there's no pain yet in that statement around what that problem is. So potentially the pain might be things like there are a dearth of good candidates on the market. It's very difficult to replace an A-grade player with another A-grade player. There are a shortage of good candidates in the marketplace. So if you lose one, it may well be that you could, take you 6 months, 12 months to replace them. Another pain may be if you lose one, because it's difficult to replace them, you may have to actually pay twice as much as your existing one to bring in someone from outside or headhunt someone who's happy in their role. There's a whole other conversation there about why don't you pay your existing one the same or decent money, but that's not the point here. Another underlying pain point there might well be that actually these A-grade staff that we're talking about are actually revenue producers. They're client-winning revenue producers, fee-earning consultants. Therefore, as soon as they lose them, they lose income. They lose consulting projects. They lose revenue. And not only for the stuff that they're doing, if you combine it with the other pain that I said, there's a dearth of good candidates in the marketplace and it may take them 12 months, then not only do they lose revenue, it might well be 12 months before they could bring someone in. And if not, it could be 12 months before they recruit them and an extra 3 months before, or 6 months before they get up to speed and know the business enough to be able to start replacing the same revenue that the A-grade player that is there in existing. So these are all the type of underlying pains. You could go deeper. The underlying pain of that might also be that as say it's a limited liability partnership structure, service-based organization, then it means that the senior directors have got to step into the breach when they've got to the point in their business where they much prefer to be out on the golf course rather than actually doing it. So that's another underlying pain that's caused by A-grade players leaving. It may well be that they're looking to sell the business in a couple of years. Therefore, that's an underlying pain. Just because one or two A-grade staff members leave could significantly impact their exit route out of the business if they cannot replace that fee income for a year. I don't know. I'm kind of making a lot of this up. But what is the underlying pain for you? And I'm going to give you one more example. Another client that I had helped speed up the time to create high-performing teams and the effectiveness of high-performing teams. So his mechanism was, how he trained and worked with disparate people who'd come in from a multi-divisional global pharmaceutical companies to bring them into a team. And he would help them form a cohesive unit quicker, great communication quicker, and be more effective in their output. Great. But the reality is, that's the mechanism. And the problem was their teams weren't gelling. They weren't creating highly operational teams or efficient teams. But the underlying pains really were things like this. And a lot of this I'm kind of making up a little bit is they were, say, large pharmaceutical companies who were launching these teams who were all about launching new products into the marketplace. So some of the underlying pains may well be that the inability of that team to be cohesive and high performing was delaying time to marketplace. And the underlying pain of that, if you think about, if you're familiar with the 3Y, reasonably basic construct in consulting, the three whys to identify the underpinning real thing that someone is trying to say. Look, the team was delaying, by their non-performance, they were delaying the time to launch of a new product to market. Therefore, they could potentially be risking the amount of market share that they gained. They could also be delaying the time to revenue. That's a massive one. If you could half the time it took the team to come together and be high performing, and that resulted in a new product launch taking 12 months instead of 24 months, that's an extra 12 months worth of revenue and market share, and possibly reduced spending on interest payments, or much better global press, global awareness, shareholder value for being first to market. There's so many underlying pains at multiple points in that organization. But the reality was he helped teams come together quicker and more efficiently. But that's not where the messaging was, really. And the problem was my teams don't come together quickly and they're not efficient. But the underlying pain is where you could really sell those services. So, I've given a couple of kind of rudimentary and crude examples there. But what I really want you to do now is pause the video and identify, if you can, what's the underlying pain caused by that business problem that you're going to focus on. Pause the video now and crack on. Okay, welcome back. How'd you find that? Challenging? If you did, cool. If you knocked that out of the park, then congratulations to you. If you find that challenging and it took you longer than you thought, and you've identified that maybe you don't know some of the underlying pains, then congratulations to you too. Because all that means is we now have a little bit of work to do in maybe increasing your market focus. Stop navel gazing, stop spending months and years building your systems and your solution, and spend more time in the marketplace identifying the reality of what this is. So congratulations to you for that. Okay, so what do you know specialities? Especially now you've got maybe a new take on some of this about how you would position it. So what do you know about your competition? Who are they? What are their specialities? And how would you describe your competitors' ability to deliver in the speciality areas you have identified, i.e. to solve the problems and the pains that you have identified? Pause the video, crack on with that one, and come back when you've done it. Okay, welcome back. How'd you get on with that one? This one then. So how would your services differ from that of your competitors? So what's your unique positioning, if you like? How do you differ from that of your competitors? And how do you prove it? And don't just put some trite stuff in there. They've got me. I'm 20 years in the industry. What's the reality of what you're doing, and how would you prove it? Pause the video. Hey there, welcome back. Congratulations on doing that one. A lot of food for thought, eh? So why would someone use you and not your competitors? Extension of a couple of the other questions, but if you have competition, if they do similar things, why would someone use you and not your competitors? Pause the video and crack on with that one. Okay, welcome back. So far, if you've noticed, I haven't kind of delved into a lot of descriptions about who's your ideal client. It's almost been about what do you understand of the pain and the problems that you're solving first. And I remember when I showed you the solution, the systems and the market led approach, and then in the center we had the business owner. A true market focused person, and we're not saying that's where we need to be or want to be. That's the wrong approach. We want a blend of all. Would focus on the pain and the problem first, and then seek to see which industries, which companies had the same type of problem, and then how they solve it. Most consultants are bound in by their expertise and what industries they feel comfortable in. But that's why I took us out of that box a little bit and just said, look, most people would do that much later on in the course, and just give you some trite stuff around, what industry sector are you in? How many people are there? That's why I've gone straight in. Let's get to the nitty gritty of this. However, now what I want you to do is, thinking about all that, is I want you to describe your ideal clients or companies and explain why. What is it about them? What are some of the characteristics? But why that? If you choose an industry, why? If you choose a size, why? If you choose a turnover bracket, why? Are they static? Are they old? Are they growing? Why? Okay, stop the video. Okay, welcome back. How'd you get on with that? Food for thought? Hopefully so. All of this stuff that we're going to do is going to permeate through everything in terms of how we approach the market and how we run our sales meetings. So, unless you are addressing a problem that is absolutely brand new, people will have tried to solve that problem before. There are lots of different models about newness to the marketplace. You've got Moore's adoption curve, where you've got early adopters, then mass majority, etc., etc. But unless the problem that your prospect is facing is absolutely brand new, and unless you're really embroiled in tech consulting, then it's very unlikely. Even they might be involved with a consulting project to solve a problem with a certain tech, but ultimately that tech is trying to solve a problem in the business that they were trying to solve manually or via a different route before. So it's generally hard in the consulting industry that they've never actually tried to solve this before. So, what services have they tried before and failed? What do you know about the marketplace? Because this is how they're going to view you through this lens as well. Because if they're aware of the problem, if they know that they've tried something before, they are going to view you through the lens of that past experience. So you need to know about that. What services have they tried before and failed? Pause the video, crack on with that one. Okay, welcome back. How'd you get on with that one? Interesting concept, eh? They tried before and worked. Yourself that you are the only way to solve the problem that you are addressing in the marketplace. It's reasonably rare. If it's a brand new problem, then fantastic. And you've got the ownership of everything. But ultimately, it's reasonably rare in consulting. Even some of the examples that I've given before, there are other solutions of doing that. So the high performing teams, there are other solutions. It could have been that they could have brought in consultants to just form the teams themselves. They could create one constant team that travels around the world. So therefore they are just doing product launches. So therefore they are never forming new teams of disparate people from different organizational departments doing new product launches. I don't know, but there are definitely ways that they have tried before and could have worked. Identify those, because you want to know why did they choose those, and why did they work? And quite interestingly, if they've worked before, why are they not doing them now? What was it about that approach that that meant they just stopped doing it, or it's not working? Why did it work before and then maybe stop? So what do you know about your target marketplace? Okay, pause the video and crack on with that one. Okay, so following on from that one, so what process is used to make purchasing decisions in that company? So what criteria do they use to select one provider over another? How are they going to view you? How are they going to view your approach? Do you need to be small? Do you need to be large? Do you need to have proof? Do you need to be, price? Do they go through an RFQ? What is it? How do you think they're going to make purchasing decisions? Is it one person? Is it a team? Is it global? Is it multifaceted? Do you think they're going to need a test project first? I don't know, but how are they going to select you as a consultant over everybody else? Okay, pause the video Hey, welcome back. The list by go and pick their industry and how many people they've got. What do they fear? Yeah. So what do your ideal clients, either as a business or the people within that business, fear? So if you look at a company, there is no company versus person distinction, but there is a company fear, i.e., do they fear losing market share, for example? Do they fear, as a company, inability to deliver shareholder dividends or shareholder value? And then the people within it, what do they fear? Do they fear innovation? Do they fear change? And I'll let you into a secret. Most businesses fear change. Do the individuals fear making a wrong decision? Do they fear being made to look like an idiot? What is it that the company and the people in that company fear? Pause the video. Okay, welcome back. Quite enlightening, eh? How'd you get on? Okay, so that is a start into your ideal client profile. In the next video, I'm going to kind of bring it down more into some of the stuff that you're comfortable with, probably more industry sector and number of people. But the reality is that's just how we build the list. That's not identifying who it is that you want to be dealing with. So the process you've just gone through, if you've gone through that and nailed it, congratulations. If you've gone through that and not nailed it, congratulations too, because it's identified gaps of things that we need to work on. And I'd love you to post this stuff in the Facebook group so we can start seeing what you've got. I want to know what you think of the process. I want to know how it enlightened you around some of the stuff that you're missing. Okay, so the next phase of that, when my computer catches up, okay, is the pain to glory exercise, the PTG, the pain to glory. So we're at the ICP, now we're on the PTG. Look, I hate to say this to you, and if this is a surprise to you and this is offends you, then there's not a lot I can do about it, really. I'm trying to think of a nice way to do it. You're in the wrong place if I offend you about this, or my marketing hasn't worked, because hopefully you should know this by now. But no one cares about your system or your solution. No one at all. Not one of the prospects you will approach really gives a damn about your solution until they understand how it will affect them. So I hope we've got that out of the way. And I hope that you're still with me. You still like me. Well, whether you like me or not is irrelevant, really. As long as you still believe I can get you the results, that's a key thing. But look, no one, I don't want to see you posting in the Facebook group about how great your system is or your solution, because no one really cares. This is the stuff that they care about. So, as a starter for 10, what results have you achieved for people, i.e. the afters? So I call it the glory. So if you think about pain to glory exercise, we've talked a lot about the pain, and I've also mentioned about the relevance of pain and goal and vision. The having a vision that's going to drive them forward will mean for a consultant that generally they have a pain that they cannot enable that vision themselves. So the vision is the internal, but the pain is that they cannot drive that themselves. But you must have worked with people before, either in the company that you were working for as an internal consultant before, or whatever you were doing before, to know the afters. And what I mean by that is the pain is the situation. That's their place where they were before they worked with you. What was the result after they worked with you? Hopefully you left them in a much better place with demonstrable results. What were they? Write those out. I call it pain to glory, and sometimes afters is I think it's called the jelly effect. I think a UK sales trainer called Andy Bounds runs through this process as well. And he calls it afters, before and afters. So it's a good book to read as well. So what results have you achieved? One key thing here, it's very rare that I find consultants that have a great understanding of this. Certainly if your business development style and sales and operational sales structure, great. But most consultants, even consultants that, some may look at as top of their tree, they've been in, global projects, running global projects to the value of millions or billions for global organizations, but because they're so in that project, they don't always know what the before was, why that company ran that project, and they don't often know what the results were afterwards because they were just so stuck in the quagmire of the project. And likewise, a lot of HR style consultants or the more softer style consultants I deal with find it very hard to deal with what the existing pain point was and certainly what the afters were, especially when they deal with more middle layers in an organization. If they're dealing with kind of HR managers and directors or VPs, they come in and those internal people have already made a choice to do the HR project. So the HR consultants are coming in not really understanding what the internal mechanism was that led them to decide why they need that project. They've just come in and accepted the project, and then when they leave, they've got no real clarity on the business financial result of the afters. So what I want you to do is, clear as you possibly can, what are the results you've achieved after you've had your intervention, after you've done your consulting project. Okay, pause the video and crack on with that. Hey, welcome back. How'd you get on with that one? If you cannot do any of those, don't worry too much, but make a point of going back to as many of your past clients as you possibly can and interviewing them and finding out those metrics. Okay, so just kind of a sanity check. So with your ideal client that you wrote down in one of the previous answers, what are the results they are looking to get? What do you think, or what do you know are the results they are looking to get? Not what you've achieved before. It's a very different thing. What do you know, and to what degree of certainty do you know that they are looking to get in their business with how it relates to the problem that you solve? Pause the video, crack on with that. So you've now looked at, hopefully, the results that you get and the results that they are looking for are the same. If there's a massive difference between the results you get and the results they are looking for, and you are confident and certain that the results they are looking for are true, then you've got to do some serious consideration here around how you create your solution so that it actually delivers the results that they want. Yep. So now you've got an understanding of that. To get them the results that they are looking for, what are the steps that they would need to take to get those results? Can you boil it down into a number of steps? It's a little trite, but I'm trying to think of an example without oversimplifying your fantastic consulting projects. But things like, if I was launching a new business and I wanted a website, I would need to start with getting a domain. I would need a logo. I would need to buy a theme, say, or make a choice about what style of website would it be, WordPress or Java or whatever. Then I'd need to get a theme appropriate. Then I'd need copywriting. I'd do it myself or outsource it, and then I'd need someone to put the tech on the domain, upload the copy, link it all together. Maybe link it to my marketing. So there's a number of steps there. And in your consulting project, to get to the results, there needs to be a number of steps too. And think of it in, it doesn't have to be just your consulting project itself. If they are a position of pain and you know that you need to get them to a position of glory, i.e. the result, a brighter future, a better result, what are the steps that they would need to take to get there? Whether they are yours or not doesn't matter, but what would they need to do to get there? See how many steps that you could break it down. What would they need to do? Would they need to change their front-end recruitment? And then how would they do that? Is their recruitment process too slow? They need to, take 6 weeks to make an offer and people are off the market in one. Do they need to change their onboarding process? Do they need to make sure good people aren't leaving in the first place? What are all the steps? Pause the video. Okay, welcome back. How'd you get on with that? Kind of a novel way of thinking of things that maybe you've never come across before. So now you've identified some of the steps. What are some of the obstacles that would stop them getting those results? So you've identified the results that they're looking for. You've identified some of the steps. So what's going to stop them getting those results? Could be linked up and intertwined with those steps, i.e. they wouldn't know how to do those steps. It's impossible for them to do those steps. They might need outside help, etc., etc. But what would stop them? Internal inertia, lack of internal credibility, lack of systems and process, lack of funds, competing resources, lack of staff. I don't know, but you know the results that they are looking for. What would get in the way of them getting those results? Pause the video and fill this in. Hey, welcome back. So what I'm going to show you now is the PTG map. So it's the pain to glory map. And I'm going to show you, so I've given you a blank one here, and I'm going to give you an example below. But what I love to do is see you have done this maybe with your team or by your own on a whiteboard or something of that nature, and send me the photos of it and put it in the Facebook group. I really want to see and hear about how you're doing this. So I've given an example that obviously that I know. I filled it out while I was creating the video, but I'm not going to delete it all and kind of start again. But I was actually typing this out so you could go through the process. But here's the process. So look, the pain and the glory. So the process and the result. So first, come down into the left-hand column and tell me what you know about the pain points that you've identified earlier. So here's my example. I'm looking at a marketing and sales initiative to solo consultants. So one of the key things that I know is they struggle with a predictable deal flow, which means that their predictable deal flow has a knock-on effect, which means that they struggle with creating predictable revenue, which has the knock-on effect of personally providing unstable and unpredictable cash flow. There's unpredictability around the number of clients and the level of revenue and the cash flow that it generates for them as a business and an individual. And I could delve down deeper into that. That could have how buying a new house is hard to plan, or and I could really delve down into that a little bit deeper maybe. So what's the implication? Worrying about at certain times of the year, worrying if they're going to get a new client, worrying about getting clients, stress, because obviously it's more aimed at an individual here. So this could be a pain point that I know, and the underlying, so the problem and the underlying pain points that are driving that. Excuse me. So the afters, after they worked with me or after they bought my course, is certainty. So unpredictability and certainty. So I provide a step-by-step blueprint framework that I take you through to provide a consistent level of first meetings with highly qualified ideal prospects who are at C-level so that they convert to revenue. Probably not the best one. I could work on that. But the thing here is, the pain is unpredictability. The glory is certainty. They're in a state of unpredictability. I can provide a state of certainty around cash flow, revenue. Okay, so there's another one. So peaks and troughs in income. So that's their pain. Because they get inconsistent. So the problem here equals inconsistent clients. Excuse my spelling. Which leads to peaks and troughs in income. That could have underlying pain issues that could really put bad health, consultants stressing and worrying, working long hours, trying to bring in new clients, stress, inability to focus on the clients that they've got, which means that their ability to deliver the projects they're on is going down. So that's a problem with underlying pain points. The result could be a glut of opportunities and even a waiting list. So what I find here is peaks and troughs are generally consistent in consultants, because as soon as you get a client, a solo consultant, as soon as you get a client, you stop doing any lead generation. And then, it could be 2 to 3 months, you do very little, and then all of a sudden that client comes to an end, and then it's like, wow, I've got to do masses of lead generation for a week or two or a month, however long it takes. Whereas if you spread that out and just do that consistently, then you will never ever have this issue. So I could boil it down to, I'll create a system where it's 30 minutes every day, even that you can do even when you're working with clients. You'll do enough to create a glut of opportunities. So many that you could even create a waiting list. So you'll never have that peak and trough. In fact, you can actually charge more. You can pick better clients, and you have no excuses. You can do it 30 minutes a day. You can do it on the commute to see clients. You can do it in the lunch hour. In fact, God, you could even outsource it to a $6 an hour virtual assistant. So here's the pain that they're in. Here's the solution, the glory. Okay, another pain might be reliant on referrals. So they feel like they're begging their network for referrals, or they can't control it. Yeah, so again, inconsistent. So it's unpredictable. So, a couple of key themes might be coming out of this. If I spelled that okay. And the glory might, okay, so they can create a meeting with anyone at will. Therefore, they become the master of their own destiny, which means that they're no longer begging, waiting around for other people, etc., etc. So I could really flesh that out. So here I would be talking in my sales and marketing, like if you're reliant on referrals, if you feel like you're begging for referrals, you've got one or two key people who said they'll be passing you business, but they're just not delivering, but you can't control that. And even when you go back to them and start asking them, inwardly you feel like you're begging, but you're only asking them to deliver on what they said, but they're not as good as their word. However, flip side, would you like to have a situation where you can create a meeting with anyone at will? You'll be a master of your own destiny. That if someone else brings you business, that's fantastic. But you can create as much new business that you need with no begging, no waiting, with absolute certainty and predictability. And probably at higher rates than the clients, because you can target your best clients. So, you're no longer even having to deal with clients that you don't want to deal with because they're being brought to you by referrals. You can choose and cherry pick your best clients. So that's an example of how you can take those, what I've written there in one line, and then turn it into a sales message, if you like. And that's where we're going, specifically more in the messaging, in terms of stage 2 and 3 when you're approaching clients, and then really down deep in stage 6 when we're looking at sales meetings. And here, so I might say, okay, this is the one I'm really going to focus on. So don't know where to start. So it's one that I've heard a lot recently when I've been talking to more newer consultants, or ones that are kind of in that first 2 or 3 years of business where their network now is drying up. They'd like to do lead gen. They're sold on the idea of doing lead gen. They want to take ownership of it. They don't want to be. They're already sold on a certain part of it. But their problem is they just don't know where to start. And the pain of that is they're wasting time procrastinating. They're worrying about making the right move instead of just taking some action. There's the opportunity cost of lost deals. There's a worry. They're potentially taking deals they don't want because it's easy to do so. They may take associate work on day rates, on low day rates that they don't want, because it's easy, because they just don't know what that first step is. They don't need the system really. They just, why can't I get a little N there? They don't even need the system. They just want to know what the first step is. They just want to go. Self-doubt. Well, they're taking day rate projects when they could be earning 10 times that as a consulting project. Therefore, they might actually get caught in a comfort zone of taking day rates, but there's an income and a ceiling cap. There's only so many days you work, and then you get caught in a trap almost, because you're reliant on that income, but you can't break out of it because if you're on a client site 20 days a week, you can't go out and win new business. So that's could be, and I've highlighted it here because. So, the glory could be, so I provide them a step-by-step system. And actually now I review that is step by step system and tell them exactly what to do at each stage so they don't get overwhelmed, don't have to waste time trying things that don't work, don't put the pieces together for themselves, don't have to learn. And so that could be learn to put the pieces together for themselves, which they can start immediately and get instant results. Step-by-step system. And even here, I could, because words I've heard a lot are, I just don't know what the first step is. Beginning with an easy first step. So here's the pain. And here I've reword that to what the glory is. You have a very easy first step to take that's laid out, that's processed, mapped for you, that you just do A, B, and C, and you can do that on day one. If you invest in the program, you can do that on day one. So here's the pain, and here's the glory. Once you've done that, the predominant one you're going to focus on, and one of the steps, I've already got you thinking about that in a previous example. So what are the steps that they're going to need to go through the pain and move them across to the glory? So here it might well be, you can have 5 steps, you can have 10 steps. And here's the thing, they might all be owned by you, or as I showed in the website example, there might be steps that could be owned by different people. You could be a copywriter. You're not interested in helping with someone buy the domain or build their website per se, but you need to work out where you fit in that sphere of doing things, in that the whole process. So here, the steps that I could use to show that is, look, firstly, we identify a small number of high value prospects. And if I pick this one that I've highlighted in red, I could just do, I don't know, I've heard, look, I don't know what the first step is. So I could really emphasize, okay, step 1, or even, simple step 1. Okay, look, I tell you exactly what to do. I show you exactly how to identify a small number of high value prospects. There you go. So if I'm addressing this pain point as my focal market message, that could be how I do it. Step 1. So I show you how to identify a small number of high value prospects. I show you how to proactively contact them using my proven scripts and follow-ups. So step 3, so once you've contacted them, they'll respond, and I show you how to use the Spur conversation flow to set first call. So I'll show you that in this training. And then step 4 is I'll show you how to convert those calls into a client or into a first meeting. Yeah, because most consultants think, rightly or wrongly, it's not my point to say in this video, once they have a first meeting, they think they can close 70 to 80% of those into clients. So really, my glory here is I'm only saying, as much as this is about, this training is to get, how to get 5 new clients, the reality is, to consultants, it's really how to get first. And I did prior to this one, because I'm trying different programs, is, get first meetings really could be the glory, because most people believe, or most consultants believe, once they get a first meeting they can sell anyone, rightly or wrongly. Generally it's because they're doing it from their existing network or referrals, so they're easy, they lay down deals. The reality is when they start doing more cold approaches to companies, that they don't close as much, their closing ratios goes down. So I don't always agree that's the truth. However, it's what they believe, so I'm not going to argue with consultants out the gate, am I? I'd be an idiot to do so. So what I want you to do is your paintings, and what are the glories. So what's the afters? This is the before, this is their current state, this is the before, and here is the after. I.e., if you worked with them, how would you leave them? What would the after state be? And to get them from the before to the after, or the pain and the glory, how many steps would they need to go through, and what would those steps be? What I've just shown you is going to be the basis for every single part of your success going forward. Do not skimp on this. It is absolutely essential that you do this, and it's going to add so much value into your business that you really just can't understand at this point in time. So I'm really looking forward to seeing this process and how you do that in the group. But don't worry if you haven't got there yet, because that's where we're going to be. Hopefully it might identify that you've got some gaps. If so, it just means we need to get you out into the market speaking. What you might find is that helps you build what we call nutshell statements. So you could take an indication of what's coming later on in the program, so you can now start to begin to build your in a nutshell. So what is it you do? So in a nutshell, I help companies that are struggling with not enough leads, who can't get access to senior decision makers, that are struggling with predictability of revenue and cash flow. And what I do is I create a predictable number of high-quality new business opportunities with highly targeted B2B senior execs. So that's kind of just an example of a nutshell statement. When you go back to the pain to glory exercise in the process, those steps, you might, or you want to own. There might be 7 steps, say. Changing the recruitment policy, how they do their first interview, how they do their onboarding. You might just be focused on the onboarding part, but you have to identify the whole part. But the key thing is, which parts of the process do you want to get paid for? Which parts of those processes add significant opportunity for consulting revenue? If you don't yet, because that's a massive opportunity. I showed you in the last video, it's the circle of excellence. I'm going to show you how you can do this. If you don't know them, then that's fantastic, because what you've done now is perfect for where you are. I'm going to give you the ability to get into as many conversations as you need to enter into the circle of excellence, where you can call people, you can speak to them, you can question them, listen to them, refine your market approach, and enter into volition of the circle of excellence. So how do you build that understanding? Speak to people. And that is everything that I give you in this program. Come on, Word. Don't jam on me now. Come on, Word. Come on, Word. Well, I know what's coming next. So firstly, it's speak to people. And secondly is the expert interview technique, and that's something that I learned from a guy called Dan Kennedy. So Dan Kennedy is a marketer, probably one of the kind of the best marketers in existence in his own right. He's most people know Jay Abraham, but not necessarily Dan Kennedy. But he's definitely up there. Has a consulting business, quite a way out American. Chap with some unique characteristics around him, and very much he creates his aura. But one of his things that he does with his consulting clients when they're looking to break into a marketplace is what's called the expert interview. And I want you to listen very, very carefully to this, because I don't give it to you as in stage 3 as a separate drone. This is the only place I think that I'm going to give it to you. However, if you think it's valuable, well, it is valuable. I don't care what you think. I know it's valuable. But if you want me to break it out step by step, then let me know in the Facebook group and I'll see if I can do that. But it's called the expert interview. So in the next video, I'm going to show you the process of called the Hot 100, which is creating your ideal clients. So your 100 top clients that you're going to aim for. Don't stress out. I make it really nice and easy. I've got a process that no one else is using that'll show you how to do that. However, if you approach those 100 people and offer to interview them to be included in a book, I guarantee you get at least 30 takers. And if you think back to week 1 or stage 1, if you like, I talked about, what are people waiting for? And I talked about quite a few consultants I speak to, waiting 12 months before they approach the market, before they write their book. This is a market approach. Go and interview your best potential clients and use that to create a book. You can get that done in 2 months, very, very easily. You can either do that depending on your geographical dispersion. You can either do that via Zoom or some technology like that. Or if you can do so, you can go and do that face to face. If you're all in the same country, and it's not going to cause invest hundreds of thousands for plane fares and everything else. But here's what you do. You contact them. It doesn't matter yet, whether you contact them via Twitter, direct mail, LinkedIn, cold email, video email, because the message is the killer. It's essentially what you're offering is to interview them about their vision for their business, the pain, the problems associated with their business. And then you turn up for the interview, physically or virtually. You interview them. You use the knowledge based on the things that you've just created, added in and layered on top of that all of the brilliant and amazing questioning skills I'm going to give you in stage 6. You knock their socks off. You impress them so much with your knowledge. You never pitch them. You have some fantastic deep questions around their organization. Here's how it goes. You then take that information and you restructure it and you pull it into your book. What will happen is roughly, say 30 people, you approach 100, 30 to 40 will accept straight out the gate. You do those interviews. 10 of those will ask you, tell me about what you do. Tell me a little bit more about what you do. Then you separate that out and you have another meeting. You do not combine the two meetings. You have an hour, a 2-hour interview. If they ask you, you then set the stage for your next meeting, whether it be with the MD or with the buying group that you want to engage with. And I guarantee you a high percentage of those people will. If they do not ask, then that's good too. You don't have to worry. What you then do is you go and create your book, and then you follow up, you send the book, and you either have a separate one-to-one sat-down meeting to feedback the results of the book with the person you interviewed, or you could take the findings of your entire book back to the buying team and present it back to them. Because obviously you've spoken to not just that MD or that CEO or that VP, you've spoken to 29 or 40 of his peers, and you've learned a lot of stuff. And the big thing that they cannot get on their own right is visibility as to what other people are doing in the marketplace. Therefore, you are now highly valuable. And then you script that first meeting, you focus on the pains rather than the content, and there's a transition then into becoming a client. So if you don't know this, don't navel gaze, don't hang around waiting for stuff. Go and speak to people using the techniques I give you. Run the expert interview. That will probably, if you ran that, just that alone, if you knew that now and stop the rest of the entire training, that will deliver on the promise if you ran the expert interview to get you your next 5 clients. Even if I didn't show you how to build the list or get the email addresses, whatever mechanism you did, you could work that. But obviously I give you all of that. Then you can go out into the marketplace to look at how your competition are marketing to people. Don't pay too much stead on that too, because most consulting companies are notoriously bad at this. If your target prospects are active on places like LinkedIn and Quora, if Quora, if you haven't come across it, it's a question and answer website. Go and have a look. So what are people asking out there? Number one, I'd say, is speak to people. Number 2, the expert interview. So if you've done the stopping and filling in the gaps when I've said, you've just done more to win predictable new business, cash flow revenue, and create your expert waiting list than any other work you will ever do. I absolutely guarantee you, because you've got more insight into the marketplace or an understanding of where the gaps are in your insight than any other consultant in your field. So congratulations, and I look forward to seeing what you do with this information.